In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man across the Spiderverse while I turn my surroundings into an oasis, find my first friend Walta, and make a log cabin in our Minecraft world. Spoilers ahead. Before we get into Across the Spiderverse, I want to rewind back to 2018. Trailers for the first animated Spider-Man movie were being released. I was ecstatic to see my all-time favorite hero without the constraints of live action. And I was even more surprised to see Lord and Miller return after making masterpieces such as The Lego Movie and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And they did not disappoint. Into the Spider-Verse was perfect, but what really surprised me was that it could be topped. Across the Spider-Verse was even bigger and better than its predecessor. I was laughing, smiling, and almost crying the whole time. There were hundreds of references and details that I didn't even catch until my fourth viewing, and I still don't know them all. But I don't have all day to talk about everything the movie had to offer, so I'll stick to just a few for this video. This wasn't the first thing I noticed and liked, but it's the easiest to talk about, the soundtrack. Daniel Pemberton killed it this time around. I found myself humming Gwen's theme nonstop and was recreating certain scenes in my head while listening to Nueva York Train Chase. My top 5 favorite tracks are as follows. Number 1 is Across the Spider-Verse, Start a Band. I was constantly hearing the drums while I slept and while I was at work. It got a little bit annoying at times, but whatever. My second favorite track is Across the Spider-Verse intro. I like this for the same reasons as number 1, but it doesn't have Prowler's theme knocking it down just a notch. Number 3 for me is Spider-Woman, Gwen Stacy. I think it's cool, and knowing that it's just a different variation of the OG Spider-Man theme is just really intriguing to me. And that goofy spring noise in Spider-Man 2099 Miguel O'Hara is why it's 4th, not 3rd, but I still really like it. And coming in at number 5 for me is Nueva York Train Chase. I really like this one, but it's not nearly as catchy as the other 4 before it. Before we move on, here's some honorable mentions in no particular order. Vulture Meets Culture, Guggenheim Assemble, The Right to Remain Silent, Across the Titles, My Name is Miles Morales, Back Where It Started, Spot Holes 1, To My Son, Miles Sketchbook, Under the Clock Tower, Rio and Miles, Creation of the Spot, Spider-Man India, A Mad Madness, Spider-Punk, Spot Holes 2, Indian Teamwork, Welcome to New York, Spider Society, 2099 Lab, Peter and Mayday Parker, Canon Event, All Stations Stop Spider-Man, Hold the Baby, The Go Home Machine, Falling Apart, Beat Them All, The Anomaly, 5 Months, and Metro Boomin did really good as well. And now that we've covered the soundtrack, I want to cover the scene where Gwen and Miles are at the bank just kind of chilling. I think as an audience, we all want Gwen and Miles to be together. There's something so satisfying about seeing young love, especially when two characters understand each other. We've seen Miles' story and Gwen was there to witness it, and now we've seen Gwen's story and Miles understands it. The problem is deep down, they both know they shouldn't be together, because at the end of a full day swinging around, saving good guys, and locking up the bad ones, being Spider-Man comes at a cost. We've seen every iteration of Spider-Man lose everyone he or she loves. We've seen his or her life crumble into shambles while he or she desperately tries to string it all together with a few webs. Both Miles and Gwen understand that the cost of being part of the Spider Society means those you keep close will get hurt, and they love each other too much to risk it all. And the Gwen being trans theory would definitely add an extra layer to their story. But I want to move over to the visuals for a second. I didn't think it was possible, but every single frame is perfect. I seriously think you could pause this film at any time and submit it to an art museum. It's crazy what happens when you give animators enough time and money to spread their wings. Wait. Their working conditions weren't ideal? Let's just move on to my personal favorite visual in the movie, Miguel O'Hara. Although I've never read the comics, Spider-Man 2099 has always been my favorite. His suit is so cool, and he's got cool claws and the Batman-looking things on his arm. And somehow the animators on this film made him look even cooler and way more sleek. His mask is way simpler in all the best ways, and don't even get me started on his physique, because I know I'm just going to go on a rant about all that cake and his lats. What I want to talk about is how wrong he is. I think perhaps Miguel is misunderstanding the whole situation. I do think there are canon events, and I do think there are anomalies, but, and it's a big but, Miguel hasn't quite the grasp of the full concept. Presumably, different events happen to every Spider-Man, and if those events don't happen, that universe crumbles. Miguel thinks the only way to keep the canon intact and to preserve the multiverse is to make sure those events happen. Problem 1 is one of morality. Spider-Man's job is to save people and protect the neighborhood. But now that these Spider-Men have a conscience of his multiverse and the possibility of collapse, they do what they can to make sure these canon events happen, so that they can protect the greater part of the multiverse. But it comes at the cost of letting those around you get hurt. Miles doesn't let this slide and becomes a threat to Miguel's plan. But what if Miles is right? And what are the holes in Miguel's plan? Problem 2 with Miguel's plan is a change of plans. Case 1. We see at the end of Across the Spider-Verse that Gwen's dad quits pursuing the title of captain, keeping him safe from the canon, but we see that Gwen isn't really close to anyone else in her dimension. So by having quit his job, Mr. Stacy saved himself, but doomed his universe, right? Wrong. We see in Mumbattan that canon being disrupted equals nearly instant collapse. So why doesn't Gwen's dimension collapse when there is no more captain to die? Perhaps a hole in Miguel's theory. Case 2. Earth 42 and Miles' home, Earth 1610. If Miles is the original anomaly, then why does he not glitch in 1610? And why does Earth 42 seem to be just fine without a Spider-Man? My theory is that incursions and interferences are the real problems. In Multiverse of Madness, Loki, and No Way Home, we see people from other dimensions interfering with the MCU's dimension, Earth 1999-99, and this causes collapse. Perhaps Miguel is misunderstanding the situation. It's not canon events being disrupted, but instead he's making the problem worse by sending all these different Spider-Men to take care of business that isn't theirs to begin with. Perhaps leaving each other Spider-Man to do their own thing would be the best for the Spider-Verse. That is until a multiversal villain like the Spot or Kingpin shows up, in which they can band together and put them behind bars before returning back to their home dimensions. I grabbed a lot of inspiration for the Miguel theory from MatPat's theory, and that link will be in the description. But that sums up my thoughts on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. If you enjoyed today's video, I ask you to drop a like and share with your fellow movie lovers. And if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it and see what you think. Your own opinion will always, sometimes, be more important than mine. Next week's video is going to be Meg 2, The Trench, so make sure you go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss out on that.